Hi, this is Mark Rosen from WCCO TV, and it's my pleasure to introduce my good friend Ron Henderson, the Fitness King, presenting Motivation, one word to help change your life.
Welcome to Motivation. I'm Ron Henderson, aka the Fitness King. I'm excited about today's show. I have my guest on, Mr. Al Woods. Welcome to Motivation. How are you, Al?
I'm great. Thanks, Ron.
Great. Pleasure to have you on today. We're going to talk about painting and what got you into that, because I went online and I saw some of your work. I was kind of fascinated with it. First of all, how did you get involved in painting? Where did it start?
It kind of started as I was a small child because it was in my family. My grandfather was a portrait painter and a sign painter.
Mm-hmm. A portrait painter?
Yeah.
What type of portraits, when you say portrait, like what?
Mostly people.
Okay.
Like, it's not really so much pet portraits,
Mm-hmm.
even though I think he could. Most of what I saw was, when I was young, I saw hundreds of portraits of people. He would just paint his friends for the fun of it sometimes.
Okay.
And he had a good time with it. And he also did, he supplemented his income with portrait
Did he
painting.
ever paint you?
He did not, but he did my father and his brother.
Okay.
And
did you bring some pictures with you?
I did, yeah.
You got them with you? No.
No, I
know you did.
I sent it to you on that computer. So.
But
Yeah.
was he? Would you consider him to be a great painter? And is that what motivated you?
I think he was pretty good. And the funny thing about my grandfather is he really enjoyed it.
Right.
So he didn't spend a lot of time finicking about being better and better. He just wanted to have fun with it. But my grandfather was one of those kind of artists that he could be as good as he wanted to at any given time.
Okay.
So if he wanted to be real good, he could do, he could do it, exquisite painting.
Wow.
But a lot of what I saw was a more relaxed style where he just had fun. And if he maybe had met you and thought you looked interesting maybe to him.
I do look
might,
folks. I do look interesting. Fitness King does look interesting.
I didn't mean to say that he doesn't look interesting. We got the facial hair thing going.
There you go.
I got the goofy mustache, and you kind of got that.
There you go. Got a little bit.
That modern beard, I guess we call that, right?
A little bit. So
Yeah.
was he? You would consider him to be a pretty? Did he go to school for this stuff too, or was it like natural for him?
It was natural to him, I think. He grew up during the Depression,
Okay.
and I really don't know exactly how he fell into it, but he started lettering signs, and he drove around the country at 13 years old. Get this,
Okay.
13 years old, he's going around the countryside in Minnesota lettering store windows and trading his lettering expertise for groceries in the Depression.
At 13?
Yeah, 13
Wow.
years old.
Wow.
He was making more money than his father was at 13 years old.
Wow.
It's kind of an interesting thing. So I think it was just that it was in his blood, and he had a desire to learn. And
So did you just start mimicking him, or how did you? Give me a little history of this. Did you go up to him and say, "Hey, teach me"?
in a way, it was almost the opposite, because he actually came to me when I was 17, I think. He said, "Hey, Alan, do you want to be a sign painter? I can teach you how to letter signs." And I said, "Well, I don't know if I really want to do that."
Sure.
And he said, "That's fine. Just let me know."
Right.
And I ended up going in the Air Force for 4 years, and then after I got out of the Air Force, I thought about it for 4 years. Then I'm like,
Right.
I should have said yes.
But then it was too late because fast signs had already started, and you were thinking about all the money.
Not
it
quite.
made.
No, not quite. Yeah, this was back in, let's see, I got out of the Air Force in 1985, so the
Okay.
computers weren't really caught up until the mid-90s on the
Right.
sign production.
Yeah.
And so after I got out of the Air Force, I went to my grandpa and said, "Hey, Grandpa, remember you said you would teach me how to paint signs?"
Right,
and he's like,
right.
"Yeah." I said, "I want to learn that now."
For a
And-
living? Did you
Yeah,
go for a
I
living?
did. I had a little sign company in St. Paul, and
Okay.
I ran a little sign business for about 25 years.
Right.
And my grandfather during that period had passed away, and I picked up his clients and lettered signs right up to the time when the computers started punching out all the sticker letters.
Sure.
And I made a big decision at that point that I didn't want to be a sticker guy, so I didn't do it.
Okay.
And a lot of my friends that were in the sign business, they went ahead and bought the vinyl cutting machines and punched out vinyl letters and made the transition. But I was more interested in the painting, and that
Right.
it kind of allowed me to get more into the artistic work. I kind of morphed into murals.
Okay.
I did a lot of mural work for companies like the Rainforest Cafe. I painted,
Oh, yeah.
I painted more jungle than you'd ever care to paint.
Really?
I painted jungles and trees and rocks and more trees and misty waterfalls and
Right. And I know those guys, but I'm curious, how How did it end up getting in touch with you for that?
I actually contracted through another sign company.
Okay.
And so I knew another sign company. They got some work making three-dimensional signs.
Right.
They sculpted all the animal heads for the,
Okay.
the store signs with the gorilla and the
Oh, yeah.
bird and the.
And you drew all those?
I didn't draw those. They had their own artists, but I was the painter.
Okay.
So I painted them according to
Yep, sure.
the way the drawings looked. So I
That's
painted
good.
all the little eyeballs on them, and
Okay.
they had Izzy the lizard. I painted little scales. And,
Really?
Yeah, it was all
Wow.
a lot of fun. That was a good time.
Well, do you freelance now at all?
I do. Yeah. That's
So if,
pretty much.
so if somebody wanted to get a hold of you for something like that, maybe they've been to the rainforest and maybe they're going to open up a restaurant or whatever, Al, how would they get a hold of you?
Well, the best way is just to get on the internet. I have a website called hydrogenwizard.com. And then really the easiest way is just to find Alan Woods on Instagram.
Okay.
Most of my newer things are on Instagram first. Takes a little more time to
Yep,
update
yep,
a website.
yep.
You know how it goes.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So
So did you study art when you were younger too then?
I did just on my own. I took a lot of art school in high school, but I didn't go on and get an art degree or
Okay.
a fine arts degree or anything from
Right.
college. Like I said, I went in the Air Force instead. That was.
Sure.
But I continued to draw and paint, and
Okay.
I sold a lot of little paintings of airplanes and things when I was in the
Okay.
military to the other guys. They all enjoyed those little airplane paintings I used to do.
What was your favorite, back when you started, what was your favorite thing to paint?
I think when I was younger, I liked to do a lot more landscapes and sunsets.
Okay, and do you have pictures of some of your earlier work too?
I don't think I do. Honestly, it's weird. Like when you're young, you don't think about those things. Imagine I'm 18 years old and
Right.
I didn't have a care in the world. I just painted and I sold my paintings, and we didn't have the internet back then.
Right,
And
oh yeah.
I just kind of got into this flow. It was so accidental that it didn't even occur to me
Right.
to keep a strong portfolio when I was real young. And then as I got a little older, I did keep a portfolio, but I had to
Right.
lose that one in a fire.
Okay.
So as of about 2005, I have no back history
Okay.
photographically to show anybody. It's kind of
Right.
a misful.
Right. Well, I wanted to have you on today because if you go to places like the Art Museum and all these different art institute in Minneapolis, art is a big deal and they spend a lot of money trying to keep that alive in Minnesota. So what you're doing obviously has an effect on people when they see art, and it means a lot to people. So where do you want to go with your art? Have you thought about it at all?
Yes, I have, and that's a good question actually, Ron, because I think that's one of the dilemmas that a lot of artists have. And for me, the older I get, the more in tune I am with my own spirituality.
Right.
And so I look more for what kind of message am I putting forth through my art.
Through your art.
So when somebody looks at that, do they, like I see a lot of art from younger artists usually where the art is rather attention getting or crass, maybe the word,
Sure.
or just ugly.
Right.
And it has like a shock factor to it. And now I look at that and I'm like, does that make the world a better place or does that make the world a worse place? And so
Right.
I try to install some kind of a beauty or inspirational message in a work of art. And even a portrait. Usually when I'm painting a portrait of somebody, I'm trying to think, what about this person is special that I want to have show through the portrait?
What about this person
Yeah,
special?
right, yeah.
So maybe you would paint a portrait of me.
Right. Yeah.
I think we're all special.
Right. But the thing is what is the thing, like your family knows something about you
Right.
that is imprinted in your face, like you have a good sense of humor or
Yep.
something like that, and you want that to come out.
Sure.
And then, when your great grandchildren come along and they look at your portrait on the wall, they say, hey, Grandpa, he was a funny guy.
Right.
They maybe didn't even meet you, but they know from looking at the portrait.
Sure.
And that's what I try to get to, have show in my artwork.
Yep. Were there any great artists that you admired, as you grew up in this field?
Yeah.
Any that you remember particularly that really stood out for you?
I've always really been interested in whimsical or surreal art.
Okay.
So I've always liked Salvador Dali.
Okay.
because of the way his mind works. He used to paint those like stopwatches that were melting over branches and things like that.
Okay.
And I always found some inspiration in that. But, and it sounds a little cliche, but I've always liked Rembrandt's works. And I think part of it for me is just that he has the tenacity to paint himself over and over. Like he stuck his face in his artwork. It might be a guy in the background, right? But he put his face on, you know. And I just thought it was just interesting to me in a way that made me attracted to his artwork in a strange way. And I've done a couple of self-portraits myself, and I've always changed myself. Like, you might not even really know it's me, but I know it's me. But it's some aspect of me.
So you have actually grown yourself.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, I look in the mirror.
Okay, all right.
And no, a lot of it is actually just the way I feel about myself. Like one of my more recent self-portraits is I actually painted myself as Frankenstein.
Okay.
So I have a little bolt in my neck, and I'm kind of green, and you know, I have the mustache and the beard, and it really doesn't look so much like, if you looked at it, you'd say, well, that's Alan, but I know it's me. And it's another whimsical, kind of like the Salvador Dali we talked about, where I have this Frankenstein, but he's sucking on a lollipop.
Right, something different.
Yeah, and it's just some kind of a feeling I had about myself at that particular time that inspired me to paint this portrait, and I couldn't even tell you what it's some kind of a division between like taking the world too serious and then still having a good time.
Sure.
You know, so it's like the Frankenstein.
I think you have the one on your site, don't you?
Yeah,
I do. Like with a popsicle
yeah,
or something?
Yeah, I can email one over to you.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah.
And share it with the audience. Are there any famous people or movie stars that you've painted before?
Yeah, I've done a few celebrity paintings. I painted Prince, which I think is an obligation in Minnesota, really.
Right. Is that on your site, Prince?
It is, I believe it is, yes. And I also did a painting of Steven Tyler, and that's about it. I've probably done a few others that don't come to mind right now, because I think every artist plays around with drawing, at least drawing sketches of celebrities. I might do you now that you're a celebrity.
Okay.
And
now that I'm a celebrity, I'm not a celebrity.
He's a celebrity. Don't let him fool you.
So, what do most of your friends think of your work?
Most of my friends like my work a lot. However, my work is because it's spiritual. I think sometimes I don't get a lot of feedback, because I can see they're thinking about something.
They're trying to figure it out.
And I don't usually pry. I don't say, you know, what are you thinking right now? And it might be touching them in a way that they need to explore.
Right.
So I don't try to tell people what my paintings mean. I'm more interested in their reaction, or that they found their own meaning in it. Because I do get that sometimes. Sometimes people look at it, what were you thinking when you painted that? And I'm like, it's more important to me what you're thinking.
Right.
And that's
I've always admired people like you. My wife never ever went to school for painting, and if you saw some of her work, she's fabulous. She could paint an Italian restaurant. She could take a picture of something. She could just take that picture, put it up on a wall, and paint it all. And you would look at that, you would say, "Wow." And it's interesting because my father as well. My dad was such a great artist and art teacher that when the people would come up from Hong Kong or Japan, they'd fly in. His school was one of the first schools they always went to see as a teacher, because they loved his artwork. And he did a lot of portraits, kind of like you.
Yeah.
Did you do figures too, all that, or just mostly portraits were you into?
I've done some figure work. I mean, sometimes people want a portrait with a half a body or whatnot. And I've done, I guess you're kind of, in some ways, you explore the figure through the portrait. And I've drawn the human figure thousands of times in the process. And I'm working on one right now. It's half a figure, half a mermaid. I'm actually painting a portrait of what would be Poseidon's wife, actually, with the trident.
Okay, interesting. Any specialties? When I say specialties, I was never a good artist, but I used to be able to do hands and nose really well. Isn't that strange? That was it.
Yeah.
Do you have any specialties or things that you really you're just right on when it comes to doing it?
I think the interesting thing about art is that once you draw something 100 times, it kind of gets locked in, and then you expand.
Sure.
So I'm always amazed that, you know, I can think I have drawing the face down to a science, but
Sure.
then I'll learn something new anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like building a roadmap to your hometown. You know, as you drive around, you're like, oh, I didn't know where this alley went, and this street goes
Sure.
around, and you actually connects in the back way. And drawing's the same way. You know, you might learn how to draw the nose and the hands,
Right,
and then
sure.
the wrist, and then the arm, and then you'll say, oh, I didn't know that muscle connected in this way.
Right.
And pretty soon you're drawing the whole figure. But then you might realize that if I make the neck a little longer, the person looks a little more graceful.
Sure.
And you kind of figure out new things along the way.
Yep.
It's an interesting journey because it really never ends.
Yep. How about from a, I don't want to say spiritual point of view, but let's just say from, I don't want to say medicinal as well. From your drawings, what have you gained from that just for yourself? Because a lot of people say, you know, they'll talk about playing music, how it's therapeutic and how it kind of like soothes their soul. As a painter, and I've seen your work, and you're good. What does it do for you mentally and emotionally and spiritually, your work, you know? And do you get something actually out of it?
Yeah, I think there's a few things I get out of it. One is a great stress relief.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that, to me, when I paint, if I can spend an hour painting, I almost get the same type of stress relief that I do if I go for a jog for a mile.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some kind of a creative energy that releases through you.
Right.
That stress leaves with it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to a young fellow one day, and he was talking about, he was a drummer.
Right.
And he says, when I drum, that's the only time throughout the day that I forget about all my other problems.
Right.
And I think that's what happens with painting.
Sure, you can kind of get lost in it?
Yeah, it's a meditation in a way,
Right.
you know, and it's a meditation where I'm completely absorbed in the art. I can get into that, like that athlete's flow they talk
Sure,
about,
sure,
where
sure.
you actually forget about it. You'll forget to eat, you know.
Oh, I know what that's like.
Yeah.
You know, working out. My wife says, you don't eat enough. I'm working out.
Well,
Not smart, but yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting meditative process that happens with art, and it makes it real enjoyable.
Right. So it's soothing your soul, so to speak.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I used to, you know, when I used to write, I'd stay up till 2:00 at night, and I would write like poetry, and I'd put on some music, and the music would come on, and I would be like, as beads of sweat roll off my head, as teardrops saturate my bed, my heart is pounding, but what do? Grab a tissue or cry my way through? You know? And I'd write these things, and I found it to just be so relaxing, and I would always do it at like 2:00 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be able to paint. My sister, my brothers, everybody can paint, but that's one art that I always wanted to be able to do because I always found people to be fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And since I'm a trainer, I always want people to look better, so I was always thinking, how can I draw this person and make them look better?
Right.
You know, just to kind of, and sometimes I would do like drawings for people, and I'd just say, look, this is where you are right now physically, but this is what we can do because this exercise here is going to build you up here, it's going to bring some shape here, and those kind of things, kind of like you do.
Right. Yeah, so like if I ever painted you, I wouldn't have to make you look more fit.
Right.
Because you're already fit.
So thank you.
And but yeah, I mean, this guy's an artist, right? You heard that poem. I mean, that's going to be in a book, I bet, right?
Yeah, it is.
That was pretty good.
That's Cleansing Cry. That's from Cleansing Cry.
Yeah.
Teardrops for better health.
I bet if you took a paintbrush and just started dibble-dabbling around, you'd have something. You'd probably just start oozing out of you. Like, you wouldn't be able to stop it, probably.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah. So for somebody that's thought about maybe, you know, painting or becoming an artist, what would you tell that person? And again, I'm always on motivation, trying to inspire other people to do something, because too many people will watch a show like Motivation. They're going to see your work because it's going to be up on the screen, and they're going to say, "Gee, I wish I could do that," but they never take that next step. Mm-hmm. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think it's a good question too. Mm-hmm. The thing today is that there's so much art on the internet, and it's all free to look at. I would just find something on the internet that I liked. If I was a new art student, I would find something on the internet that I liked, and I would just start copying it. And you don't have to do anything. We just start a sketchbook, right?
Yeah.
Scrap of paper
Yes,
or whatnot.
yes,
And
yeah.
If you see a picture of a hand and you want to just try to sketch it out, and by the time you draw a hand 100 times, you'll know how to draw hands. And it keeps snowballing. But just find out what you're interested in. If it's cats or birds or people or landscapes, just draw. I mean, that's the real secret. It's just it's almost like anything else that you would do is practice, repetition.
Right. Yeah. Now, do you know, I mean, I know you have a lot of stuff on your website. If you were to recall, what would be some of the paintings that you have on there right now? And are they for sale?
I think, well, let's see, we'll start with the first question. There are a number of paintings on my website, and I think they're all portraits, except for on the second page of my website, I have some murals and some walls that I painted. And I believe that portrait I talked about earlier with the Frankenstein is on there.
Okay.
And there's a portrait I did of a gal named Jody, and there's a portrait on there of a gal named Samantha.
Okay. Is Tyler on there too? Steven Tyler?
I don't think I have Steven Tyler on there. I think Prince is on there.
Okay. Is that for sale?
Well, I'm going to say no, only because Prince's identity is kind of copyrighted in a way that I'm not sure that, there's a certain gray area with celebrity artwork, fan art, I guess. But I haven't bothered to try to sell that one. I just did it for myself.
Sure.
And, I would have to probably get permission to sell that publicly to keep everything ethical.
But you will do work for hire if somebody needs some work done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yep. You may not want to talk about it. You may feel, if you don't, that's fine. If you're going to paint a portrait for somebody, typically speaking, how expensive is it? Because I think it'd be a great gift for a lot of people for, like their parents or family portrait or things like that as people start aging.
Right.
What is kind of a base charge for something like that?
Well, if you're talking about a decent sized traditional portrait, like you would see over someone's hearth.
Right, exactly.
You're starting at around $5,000 for a decent portrait. Now that's a realistic portrait, like realism.
Sure, is that like oil?
Representative, they call it, oil on canvas. And of course you can go up from there. If you start adding more people into the portrait or you want a larger size, it can go up. And if you want something that's a little less expensive, you can also go more into the abstract arena, which is why I was explaining that if I do a representative or a realistic portrait, that's different than some of the contemporary art you see today where, if you think about like Picasso, where there's that's an extreme, I guess, and I don't generally go that far, but I can do a contemporary portrait for less. But the thing is just to email me and tell me what you think you want. But
what's your email address?
It's contact@hydrogenwizard.com. It's the best one to get me.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you find and I'm setting you up actually on this one because if I could paint, I could say this would be me. Do you find yourself getting lost in painting? And the reason I'm saying this because if I could paint, I could see myself painting till 3 o'clock in the morning. I wish I could paint, man. Just something about creating. I'm always trying to create, and I do that from the standpoint of training people. I'm trying to create better health in people. I want people to look better and I want them to feel better. Do you find yourself getting lost in your work like that?
I do. I love getting set up by this guy. He's always setting me up for something. But yeah, it's like I said, it's kind of like a meditation or doing something you really enjoy.
Right.
If you say, I meet people that like bicycle, for example, and they're so into it that they can just bicycle for hours and hours, and there is a funny thing. I think I kind of mentioned it earlier that you can forget to even eat. You get so wrapped up in it, and then it'll seem like an hour went by, but it was really 4.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, you'll stop for some reason, the phone will ring, or you'll get pulled away for some
Oh, yeah.
reason. And then you hang up the phone and you realize, boy, I'm really hungry. I haven't eaten
Right,
since this
right.
morning, and now it's 7 o'clock at night.
Sure, sure.
You know.
But you got a
And-
fabulous painting done.
Yeah, right. Or at least a good start.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. When I used to jump rope, it's interesting when you said that. I remember I was jump roping. Somebody said, "What's the longest you generally jump?" I said, "Well, usually an hour every other day." And we're talking. And literally before I knew it, I've only done that one time. It was an hour and 40 minutes that I'd been jump roping straight at Lake Calhoun.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was caught up in it. And I wouldn't eat before jump roping because all I thought about was jump roping. The high I got from jump roping.
Right.
Something about it, what it did for me. And so, and even now, a lot of times I have to force myself to eat more often because, how can I say it? I eat to live, I don't live to eat. And a lot of people who are grossly overweight, their whole life is dealing with just eating and things like that. And so I don't want to be controlled by food. I want it to be something I use to nourish my body. And you should be eating more often and things like that. And so it's not something I do consistently where I neglect to get those meals in. But
Yeah, that's good advice. I think one of the things I tend to do is I graze. So
Sure.
I'll keep some snacks, hard-boiled eggs or
Yep.
cashews, or
Oh, yeah.
I'll just grab something on my way by the kitchen.
Yep.
And I'll eat like that most of the day because
Right.
I don't have to actually stop painting then. If I could just take a break
Yeah.
and just grab something
Right.
that I don't have to prepare or have it pre-prepared.
Yeah.
It seems like I can keep that painting flow going if I don't stop for more than a minute or two.
Right.
So, pop that hard-boiled egg.
Especially when you're in the flow, yeah. And we got about 30 seconds. I want to ask you the final question. If you were to tell my viewing audience one thing about you that most people don't know in the next 30 seconds, what would that be?
Oh, boy, put me on the spot. One thing they don't know about me, I'm also kind of a performer. I juggle. I ride a unicycle. I like to clown around. So that's my other little art
You got any
form.
videos of that?
I do. There is a little video of a
Send it
puppet
to
show. Yeah.
Send it to me, and
Yeah.
we'll put a little bit on
Yeah.
it on a 10.
I wanted to be a ventriloquist when I was a kid.
Really?
Isn't that funny?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I still kind of do.
You look like Kurt Russell a little bit with it from Tombstone.
Oh, yeah. I love
I'll be
westerns.
your Huckleberry. You look like that. Folks, you've been watching Motivation. I'm Ron Henderson, the Fitness King, with us, Mr. Al Woods of Hydrogen Wizard.
HydrogenWizard.com.
Talking today about painting. If you want to get a hold of Al, he is for hire, and he's got a lot of great work on his website. Remember, in all that you do, stay fit, stay motivated, and stay blessed. We're going to see you next time on Motivation. Good job, man. Thank you.
Thanks.
That was good.
The things that I talk about, I live every single day of my life. I don't believe in bad days. All of that stuff goes with it. Haven't had a bad day in probably 30 years.
Doesn't matter how much money you have, it's how much health you have. The healthier you are, the more you can do. The longer you can do the things that you want to do. You say you can't do it? You say you're too old? I say you can. You are never too old to improve the quality of your life.
You come home not walking in the house like this. Hello, honey. Hello. How's the day? Well, I don't know. I'm just trying to get along because you don't have any energy. But when you take care of yourself, you walk in the house with that energy. Lucy, I'm home. That's the one thing that you cannot buy is good health. You have to earn it.